Welcome to the fish tank.
Hey everybody, Fishman here, and welcome to part 2 of me building an aquarium without using any silicone. And as I said in part 1, don't do this. If you're going to go to the trouble of building the frame and cutting the glass, silicone it together. If I had to use silicone for this, it would be very easy to make, and it will last forever. It's a much better material to work with, and obviously much better design for anything really holding water together. Now, if you're of a mind that you really do want to do the retro look and you want to use the original material, a couple people pointed out to me the name of it. It's called asphaltum, and it is actually still available. I checked online. I could order some and therefore build this out of that. But unfortunately, I could only get it in, well, the smallest size. It was a 5-gallon pail, and I really did not want to do that. I certainly don't want this sticking around. And when it comes right down to it, in the end, I will be taking this apart, and I will be siliconing it together because I actually have this in mind for a project, and I really want it just to last, not have to worry about it. Actually, in the comments below, I want your opinion on something. I could silicone this together with either black or clear. Clear is stronger material and will last longer, and you can see the seam of the wood and everything better. Black is obviously the color of the tar, so it may have a better, retro feel to it. Let me know below which way you think I should go with this, because obviously strength-wise it's not an issue because this is a small tank. It'll hold together regardless. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you was the cutting of the glass for this. Now, I know I had already done a video about that, but this particular glass was old. I had gotten, quite some time ago, a prospective client had ordered a tank size, and I had gotten the glass, and they ended up backing out at the last minute, so I ended up getting stuck with the sheet of glass. And glass, as it gets older, it gets more brittle, and I wanted to show you the difference between how you cut old and new glass. But this video was, like when I did the original cut for it, pardon the pun, it was over 15 minutes long. I had to remove something, and that was what I did. So it's not really much of a difference. If you really want to see cutting old glass, let me know, and I'll put up a short video about that. But anyway, enough of all that stuff. This is what I've been doing so far is just spreading the putty into the seams. It is actually really hot when I was doing this, so it's really quite pliable, which is really good because I didn't have to be too particular about how I laid it out because it was quite squishable. And you saw when I leaned on it, it was easy to get the bubbles out. There's actually, at this point, still a fair amount of like gaps here and there, but I didn't want to push too much putty out at this point. I originally had built the frame oversized by 1/8 of an inch all around to give me enough room for the putty to fill in all the seams, and I didn't want to end up squishing out too much in any one particular spot, just so I end up with like a big gap somewhere. And again, if this was silicone, it wouldn't be an issue at all because the silicone would easily fill a 1/8 inch gap without any difficulty whatsoever. But again, I hadn't worked with this material before, so I wanted to be a little more cautious, at least in the beginning, because you'll see at the beginning here, I'm laying out rather fine beads of this. Later on, I just pile it all on because I'm getting more accustomed to using it. Now, the second sheet that's going to go on here is going to rest on top of the bottom, which for me is a big no-no because I don't do that. I always build my aquariums with the bottom floating up inside. That way, the front and the back and the two ends transfer their weight directly into the stand, or in this case, the frame, and they don't put any weight or stress on the bottom sheet at all. I can't do that with the frame because it gets in the way. There's just no way to move everything around it. So what I have to do is put the bottom in first, and then put a little bit of extra putty so that when I squeeze the side piece in here, there's a bit of a amount of putty between the two sheets of glass, so that you don't end up with glass on glass, which is always a bad thing. And it will seal properly. I'm not too worried about that. But the neat thing is when I convert this to silicone, I've never done this before. I've never actually had an aquarium with the bottom sheet in contact, so I'm going to have to actually work out how I want to do that. I'm not going to have to do it in 2 steps. I just don't know yet. It's going to be something new, and it'll be interesting actually to figure that stuff out. And as I said earlier, this putty's been actually really quite easy to work with. Most of that's because this is like really, really warm right now. And actually one of the things I need to apologize for is I have a fan blowing currently, and you might hear a bit of a hum in the background. On the plus side, of course, it makes it easy to work with. So this is kind of going to be a rinse and repeat process from now on. It's just going to be me putting the extra pieces on, and putting the putty first, putting the glass in, flipping it around. The only thing that was a bit of a hiccup for me initially, like I wasn't certain, is when I did the next side. I had to flip this up on the opposite direction so that, like, here we go here, so that was actually hanging in the air, and the only thing holding it on is putty, and it's not really an adhesive. So I was kind of concerned, so I built a little bit of a brace initially. I ended up forgetting about all that later on, because it actually does have quite a bit of a suction capability to it, and it wasn't an issue at all. So now this is going to be the end, and I had to leave a little bit of extra gap because I have to be able to fit it in here. And again, with silicone, that's going to be interesting because I usually have a lot more contact between them, but there's going to be probably about a 1/16 of an inch gap between the end piece glass and the side piece glass. And again, I'm not at all concerned about silicone leaking in any way, shape, or form. It's just something I haven't ever done before. So I'm just going to, as this progresses now, I actually want to talk about something else. I want to talk about what some of the end results. Kind of like skipping to the end here a bit, but like I said, the rest of this is just more of the same as far as the build goes. But I actually learned something interesting as this progressed after I put water in it. If you put water in an aquarium, and a regular aquarium with silicone, and let's say your stand is kind of wonky, or the floor is unlevel and one side is a little lower or a little closer, like more weight goes on one corner than any other, silicone will happen is it will stretch, and it will try to compensate for that. And if it stretches too much, which is a really good indicator for issues, is it will start turning a bit white, and that white is an indication that the silicone is being stretched past its elastic limit, and it is a great barometer for something you need to worry about. Obviously, the putty's not going to do that. It's not going to stretch because it is going to be squished. Now, this side here, this table, as you see me putting weight on it, it's flexible, and it's actually nowhere near true, and that side had a lot more stress on it than the others. And the interesting thing is, as it had the weight in it, some of the putty started being pushed out. It's kind of interesting. I'll show it to you as it comes up. Right now I'm doing a test fit for the lid, the top for the frame. I wanted to make sure that when I was putting all the putty and glass and everything in, I didn't knock anything out of alignment. Fortunately, it was all good. And then it's going to put a great heaping wad of putty on here because this is actually going to be a squished together blind. You can see there's a bit of a gap there between the ends and the sides, and I wanted to make sure that all got filled up. And the only way to do it was to put a little extra in there and then razor off all the excess, which is a neat thing about working with putty. It's even no matter how much I put in, it's just very simple for me to razor it off and get it so it looks nice again. The other thing I noticed is, as this went along, a 10-gallon tank with a frame and lots of putty is actually quite a bit heavier than just a regular one. It's a significant amount. So I'm going to go through and razor this off and make sure everything's in the proper place and everything, and get it ready. And the other thing I noticed as I was working with this, putty is a lot messier. You can see an awful lot of fingerprints, and I had to use Windex and lint-free rags and got all that removed. I mean, it wasn't hard to do, but it was just another observation I had that was different between working with silicone and working with this putty. So here you have tons of fingerprints everywhere, but everything's where it needs to be. I still have a little bit of adjusting to do to it, get rid of a few flakes here and there, and get it all set up. But here you go, it's all clean, ready to fill with water. I actually enjoyed making this. It was a fun build. It was something I had never done before, and it was neat to have that kind of experience with it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to cut to, here we are, the original scene from the first video. I had shown you a bit of a preview, and I won't fill this all the way. It's one of the things I didn't show last time. I'm going to fill up 2/3, exactly the same as I do if this was silicone. I always like things to get a little bit of weight on it and settle where they need to settle. So if you like this style of video, please like and or subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you think of the look of this. I think it's kind of cool, but definitely let me know your opinions of this. And I'm going to show you one thing here as we go along. As we pan to the front on the left hand side, you'll see a little bit of the putty has been squeezed out. Here it's all normal, but right here you'll see there's a little bit of a bulge there, and that has me concerned. This is obviously very pliable because of the heat, and if too much gets squished out, it may end up having leakage issues. But like I said, this is just a fun little thing I wanted to try. I filled it up with water, and we're all good. And I'm pretty sure I'm not going to let this go longer than, I'm not going to let it leak. I'm just going to take it apart and put silicone in it. But I am going to let it go a little while, and I will definitely give you an update on this. There you go. Filled with water, holding water, and we'll see how long it does that. If it were cooler out, like if this is normal room temperature, I think it would actually last a little bit longer. But anyway, we'll see how this goes. So thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next video, and bye for now.